Welcome to Revolution Against Evolution. I'm your host, Doug Sharp.
My co-host Rich Gear here as well, and it's my second show we're going to do with Dr. Daigneault. Okay.
Yes.
Obviously, we talked about that last time. You were from Montreal, and so I'm assuming you speak French pretty well, huh?
Oui. Je parle français.
That's about where I can go. My mother was a French teacher. So.
Yeah, French is my first language.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, you do English very well, you know?
Dr. Jean-Guy Daigneault is the director at the Gilead Healing Center here in Lansing, Michigan.
Right.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about sugars and the other things that are related to sugars. And Dr. Jean-Guy is a chiropractor as well as being a nutrition expert, and he has a lot of insights on why our health is so bad here in the United States, and some of the practices that we've had where a lot of things have been taught in the United States as being healthy really aren't all that good for you. And I think it's been known, I think it's agreed by most people that sugars aren't really all that good for you. And but I think that it'd be helpful for you to explain to us some of the things that a diet that's high in sugar might cause in the body.
Well, the first thing that I'd like to touch on is, if you guys never heard this number is the average American right now in the United States will eat somewhere around 160 pounds of sugar per year. That's the average. Just think about that for a minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's truly amazing when you hear those kind of numbers, knowing that some people don't eat any, right, or very little, and the average is 160 pounds a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was published in the medical journal that there is an increase of 40% of forearm fracture in kids, and they attribute that to kids drinking pops, right? Which in one can of pop there's like 12 teaspoons of sugar.
Oh yeah.
And some of those kids, they eat that, they drink that every day. Matter of fact, they go to school, they have it. So you see a population now, and we have one of the, the biggest population rising of kids that are being overweight and obese, right? Over 50% of our kids right now are overweight. Mm-hmm. If you think of this, it's really amazing to just observe that. You don't even need to be an expert. And one of the main reasons, obviously, is because what we're putting into our body. You have those kids that are going to school and they're having lunch. Well, what kind of lunch are they going to have? Well, they're going to have hamburger, hot dogs, macaroni and cheese. They're going to have pasta. Just think about this, what we're feeding our children, and then we're expecting them to learn after that, right? So when you say to me, well, Dr. Jean-Guy, what do you think of sugar? Well, obviously sugar is evil, right? There's nothing short than just evil. Matter of fact, sugar is more addicting than just heroin. But yet most people, people are like, well, this is not a big deal. Well, people that are addicted to sugar, people that eat sugar every day, just get them off sugar and see what happens.
Yeah. It is very difficult, and I think we have a lot of Christians who are living in Romans chapter 7, where Paul was explaining in the Romans chapter 7, he's explaining his battle with the flesh, where it is very difficult for him to, he knows what's right to do, but his flesh is not cooperating. And he gets so frustrated with himself because he can't produce the type of things. He says, what I want to do, my body doesn't want to do. And I think that's what's going on with the whole sugar thing. And
well, I think with it, there's another issue here too, that a lot of times I think people, and in the United States, and I'm always careful about this because we're taking a spiritual lesson and always applying it to the flesh, okay? Mm-hmm. In other words, no matter what we do, we're going to die at some point, okay? It is pointed out a man wants to die and then the judgment. So no matter what we do, we're going to die. And Paul says, bodily exercises profits some, but spiritual is the big deal. And a lot of times we got to be careful when you apply spiritual lessons to fleshly ones only. I get real nervous about that, because when Paul says everything is to be taken, you can eat anything you want, okay? In other words, not under a law, and I don't want to put people under a law here, but I think not all things are expedient is a good way to approach it, because otherwise, you know what happens, he's right, that's when you do live in the spiritual flesh, Doug, exactly. When you say somebody, you can't do this, or you're bad, then, you know, it's like vegans, you know, they try to make a religious thing out of eating only vegetables, okay? And Paul says, let those who are weak in the faith eat vegetables. Again, that's a spiritual lesson, but the point of it is that it doesn't mean it's bad for you to eat a lot more vegetables. It just means when you start doing things with a legalistic thing, I get real nervous about that, because I think it's not biblical, it's not healthy, because your flesh will rebel against it, and it's like we're trying to conquer that. But it's more than just merely about the body. It's about the spirit and about the soul, because that's what's immortal, okay? Saying all that, you got a lot of good life lessons for this body, because he did give us a temple to take care of. You know, and I do agree with that. That's a real important thing. But I just get real nervous, because I don't want people to feel like getting condemned, because nobody really, especially in our country, it's difficult. Like we were talking about this last show, you know, well, where do I find this stuff? You know, even health food stores are going to give you not necessarily the best stuff. Sometimes they do, but, you know, who's got time to research all that? It's like a lot of things, unless you're interested in it, most people want to live their life, you know. I'm an artist, I want to produce pictures. I don't want to think around with how much food I'm going to put on my, I just don't want to mess around with that very much. So, and I'm not saying I'm right, I'm just saying I know reality. And so with that in mind, you know, it's good to know what the caveats are, what the good things are, what the things are that are not healthy for you. You know, when we put people under a legalistic thing with the flesh, I get real nervous about that. But outside of that, you know, not all things are expedient, but you know, but there are things that are better for you, and that's why I'm really excited about hearing some of this stuff. You know, so.
Well, I like.
And also the other thing about it, I want to ask you about. There are different kinds of sugars as well. You know, there's fructose, there's sucrose, there's galactose or lactose, all these different kinds. Are they all horrible? I mean, the sugars are part of nature. So I was just curious about that as well.
Doug, this guy here is asking me all the technical stuff, right? And he's like, I don't want to hear about the technical stuff. It's too complicated. Now he wants to hear about the technical stuff.
It's about hearing and doing are two different things, though.
But let me just tell you something, right? I mean, I'm trying to come here in front of you guys tonight, right? Today, and to try to make this easier to understand. We can learn about all of the technical, but at the end of the day, the answer is going to be the same. What should we be putting in our bodies? We should put fruits, vegetables, protein, and fat. I mean, it's just not going to change. It doesn't matter if you have an apple. Who cares if it's sucrose, fructose, whatever, toast. If God is giving it to us, I'm going to have it.
Okay.
Right? If it's man-made, right? If you have a PhD in a lab that is manipulating what we're going to be putting in your body, if you say, Dr. Jangi, what do you think of that? I think that this is not from God.
Okay.
Right? So my point of view on this is like, hey, you don't need a PhD in nutrition, you need common sense. Common sense is we want to be eating as much food as we can. How do we define that? There's a difference between food and a product. Food, right, either it's going to come from the ground or it's going to be coming from the trees. It's going to grow from somewhere that God is giving us that. A product is something that is man-made, that is in a bag. And then you have a bunch of ingredient, you don't even know what it means, and then you're trying to figure this out, which, I mean, who has time for that, right? You just said it.
No, you don't look at it.
So for any one of us here, including me, it's like we want to use common sense on a day-to-day basis, say, hey, Jesus did not feed 5,000 people, or it was probably more likely 15,000, with crappy bread. That just didn't happen, right? We just got to understand that he did not give them cake, cookies, candies, and ice cream. That just didn't happen. Because, you know, I mean, we got to be realistic to understand what was given to those people, you know, for people to be healthy and to just say, how can I be ultimately the best that I can be? And that's a good point that you brought up, is like, we all going to die. I agree with you. Mm-hmm. But the ultimate question that I would like to ask you is like, well, would you like to die and the remaining 20 years of your life you're going to be miserable? Or you'd like to die and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go all in and all out for the Lord until the last day, and I'm going to be his little warrior on earth while I'm here.
That's right, yeah.
For me, right, every day I ask people that, I'm like, how do you want to finish? You know, I mean, you can make a choice. You might finish at 50 because, you know, Lord's in charge. And I agree with that. We're all going to die.
Yep.
But you want to be the remaining 20 years of your life at, you know, in a nursing home? Or you would like to be going all out for the Lord, right, and say, I'm going to try to do the best I can to be a good steward of what he's given me. He's only giving you one body. You can go buy another car, but you can't buy another body because you can have body transplant. We don't have that yet. Right? Think about that for a minute. We only have one body. He's given us one. We should be good stewards.
There's some scientists out there saying, yeah, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Now,
So,
I see an association between sugar and love. And this is, you have birthday, you don't see a birthday salad.
yeah.
You don't see carrots in your Easter basket. When up till the day I was 40 years old, my grandmother, when I came over to her house, she would say, would you like a cookie? Would you like, take two of them, they're small.
Yeah.
And you have Christmas and Easter and all these
Yeah.
different special occasions where we are associating sugar-laden stuff with love.
Yeah.
How do you break that?
You know, that's a tough one. I mean, we have to be honest, right? There's kids that are adults today, just like all three of us, that we were raised in families and friends. You go to places and you have a reward that's going to be sugar based on the good things that you do.
That's right.
Right? So, and that becomes a problem too later on in life, because you mentioned that earlier. Even if a person were to be on a quote-unquote diet and they are losing weight, and there's a lot of people that have a hard time to keep the weight off. Why do you think that is? Because it's not just a physical problem. People can lose weight. They lose weight all the time. They lose 10 pounds, they gain 10 pounds. They do that 50
It
times.
seems like each time you do it, it makes it harder to lose it the next
Yeah,
time.
but you also have the part psychologically that people have been raised in family that this is, how it went in their family. You did something right, we were giving you some kind of sugar. We'll give you some ice cream. You do this, I'm going to give you a surprise.
But we can get diet stuff, okay? Diet pop, diet sodas.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Non-fat ice cream, yeah. Fat ice cream.
Shall I get you started on that?
Yeah. Well, we should certainly mention it, right? There's something that is really interesting about the diet, the artificial sweeteners, that people will have a Diet Coke, right? They're like, well, I'm on a diet, I'm going to have a Diet Coke. Do you guys know that aspartame is a neurotoxin? A neurotoxin, what it means is it kills your nervous system. There's one area of your brain that's called hypothalamus, and it's been known through research that when people have aspartame into their diet, what it does, it will start destroying your hypothalamus. Your
I can tell you
hypothalamus...
that, I can believe that totally. I tried to lose weight, and I did drop some weight. This is about 20 years ago, and I started drinking Diet Pop for about... And I hated the taste of like drinking battery acid, but the point of it is that I got where I got used to it, but then I started getting these really, really horrible headaches.
Yeah.
And it didn't always happen, so it took me about 2 years to figure it out after I'd started drinking it for 2 years. So it's a 4-year cycle on this thing.
Yeah.
And it was if the barometric pressure changed or I didn't get quite enough sleep and I drank a diet, I'd be at the porcelain altar producing salsa.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'd be doing because
We have a picture
the headache would be so bad,
Yeah.
it would give me nauseous, so that's what would happen. And I understand bulimics, quite frankly, after that, but I never liked, that was not but you felt almost euphoric after that happened. It was horrible. The headaches were so severe, and I didn't put it together. I absolutely, and I had a couple of nurses, oh yeah, that aspartame is bad. Where were you like 4 years ago?
That's right.
Nobody told me this. Not only that, as I found out it triggers people to get hungrier. So they eat more when they drink diet stuff. That I know.
Yes, because it damages your hypothalamus.
And is that your food regulator?
And your hypothalamus is in charge of your appetite, and it's in charge of fluid retention. A lot of people their ankles start swelling up when they have diet stuff. And they wonder why. Well, that's what it does, right? It's a neurotoxin to destroy your nervous system, and then there's many other things that comes with that. But yet most people don't know that. There's also this other kid on the block now, it's called Splenda, right?
I was going to ask you about that.
And Splenda, there's another name for it. It's also known as sucralose. Oftentimes, I would say 90% of the time, because now people that are marketing it, sucralose looks like sucrose. So people read that on the ingredient list, they're like, hey, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not okay. Sucralose, it's Splenda. Splenda, when they've done preliminary research, it shows that it will decrease the size of your thymus, which is in charge of your immune system, and then it will enlarge your liver and kidneys. So what it does is it's causing some other issues in the body, but yet people don't know.
So there are no artificial sweeteners that are worth 2 cents.
Well, not true. There's one, it's called Stevia. You might have heard. It comes from a plant.
Okay, I forgot about that. I was going to ask
Right?
you about that one.
That's a herb, isn't it?
That's right. It comes from a plant. That's an herb, and you know, most people, they do well with that. I mean, I haven't seen yet to this day, right, anybody coming up with, you know, research that shows anything bad about stevia. You know, and we've been using it with our patient in the office for almost 20 years now, right? And I haven't seen any issues with it.
Okay.
Now, what about things like coconut sugar or honey or...
Yeah.
But then you have those things what you're bringing to the plate here, Doug, which is a good point. It's like, do you have such thing as natural sugar, right?
Right.
So if people were to have honey or maple syrup, those are considered to be natural sugar. I would say that if you're going to have any sugar, having natural sugar is better for you,
Yeah.
right? Anything that is less processed by nature, any kind of food will be better for you. I tell people all the time, you can ask any kids, is it better to have an orange or a glass of orange juice? Everybody's going to tell you it's an orange. There's things in the orange that we don't know what that is, but we know it's better than the glass of orange juice.
Yeah, I've been wondering, like, with my, as I mentioned last time, my wife is fed through a feeding tube, and I always call it the plastic food that they give her, because she can't really eat through her mouth very well, you know? So, and I was thinking, but aren't there things like phytonutrients or the things that natural food gives you? I'm wondering if I could just grind up stuff and get it to her, but I don't know whether she could take it or not, you know? Because when she was in the nursing home for 5 years, I wouldn't give her anything like that at all. And so her body's gotten used to this other stuff. She's been around. They gave her 6 months to live. It's been going on 13 years now, so I must be doing something at least somewhat right. But it always troubles me that you don't, natural foods, this I've always felt that there are things in there we don't even know.
Well, you've also been doing hyperbaric oxygen.
I've been doing hyperbaric oxygenation for her as well, which is a whole different thing to try to keep her. And I've noticed the interesting about that is her skin cells seem to regenerate, or she doesn't have skin. Every time if I do have to take her into a hospital for, let's say, she gets a UTI or gets even a lung infection, they'll look at me and go, how is her skin so good shape after 12 years? You should have skin breakdown, you know,
right.
And she doesn't have any, so.
And you do hyperbaric at your office, don't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Now, when do you prescribe that?
Well, Doug, you weren't supposed to talk about that. That was like a secret.
Yeah, that was a secret. Sorry, folks, we let the cat out of the bag, you know?
Well, you know, to be honest with you, just think about this, is having more oxygen in the body, would that be of benefit to anybody?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So when a person say, well, who can benefit? Of course, you can start thinking of diagnosis, of what the medical literature says, that they've tried this, they've tried that. But when it's all said and done, just think about this. Anybody can benefit from it, right? I mean, anybody can truly benefit. In the medical literature, they're going to tell you about any kind of, you know, people that have neurological issues like PTSD or, you know, other kind of, you know, brain stuff in nature, right, that they can potentially benefit. But what I have seen is I've seen people with a neurodegenerative disease like Parkinson, you know, Parkinson disease, people doing, you know, better with that. People being able to sleep better, walking better. So to me, it's just like, I do things for health. I don't do things to treat disease. Of course, there's people that come in, they have a disease. I understand disease, but I don't want to treat the disease. I want to take care of you. I want you to be healthier. This is what I want for you. If you put more food into your body, right? If you eat well, think well, move well, you're going to be better for it. And it doesn't matter if it's you, or if it's you, right? Everybody can benefit from that. It doesn't matter who we are. And that's what I promote to people. I'm not going to tell you what I don't want you to do. I'm going to tell you what I want you to do, right? What are the good things you can be adding? And oftentimes the things that people don't do so well, they're just going to, you know, they're going to, if you eat more fat and more protein, you're not going to eat as much sugar, for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not going to harp on you. You're like, hey, I want to eat sugar. I'm like, go for it. Eat your salad first, though. Right?
Yeah,
And
there
after
you go,
that, you
yeah.
can have sugar. But guess what? After a month, 2 months, guess what happened? People were like, Dr. Jean-Guy, you know, I used to have like 10 can of pop a day, and now I just can't stand it. Right? And I'm like, good for you.
That's right, yeah.
Right? So
I've stopped drinking pop, and you know, I've been going more on the salads and the nuts and fruits and vegetables, and I'm feeling a lot better. I don't get the colds, and I think that it's been benefiting me. So
I mean, I tell people all the time, like, listen, if you believe in the Lord that, you know, God is the ultimate healer, and when people are believers, they all raise their hand, yep, I believe. I'm like, okay, well, so if you believe that He's the ultimate healer, you got to create an environment for God to heal His body. If you create an environment for healing, you don't know what the body's capable of doing. You don't know what the Lord can do through you. Right? People wants to be healed by the Lord, right? And it happens all the time. But now guess what? I tell people, I'm like, you cannot handcuff God. Then you're going to leave. You're going to do the same dumb thing as you did before. I tell people, I'm like in James 1:22, when it says, don't just be a hearer of the word, be a doer, right? I think we're responsible to take care of our body, just like you said before.
It's like the one that says, okay, I'm forgiving you, but go and sin no more. That's what you're saying. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. But, so we got the good fats, and there are some things. I like that approach, though, that ability to say, if you're going to do this, but eat this, because I love the good. My problem is I like the good food and the bad food, So, but I do eat a lot more. I'm more of a vegetable guy. I'm not a fruit guy that much. I don't. Probably because I'll eat an apple, then they spoil before I think about eating them again,
Yeah.
And because I don't eat a lot of food. My problem is I don't eat a lot of food. Period. I eat one meal, maybe 2 meals a day at the most, and I'm so busy I never think about eating until suddenly I'm starving, and then I eat all wrong. So I already know. The problem is I already know the bad things that I do, and there's some things I'm suffering for it as it is. One of my things they diagnosed my left knee with a severe arthritic knee now, and I go, and I know sugar can inflame joints.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. So I don't drink nearly the pot. I still drink pop, but I don't drink nearly like, oh boy, I used to drink a lot of it.
But here's something interesting. I could introduce you to half dozen people in the office that have their joints are bone on bone and they have zero pain. And the only explanation to that is the inflammation, right? People don't believe that, but I can introduce you to half dozen of them, bone on bone, zero pain. Every doctor they see, they want to do surgery on them, but they have no pain. Right. Pain comes from inflammation. Inflammation comes from anything that has to do with cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, bread, rice, and pasta will do that every time, right? So what can we do to help ourselves is if we reduce that, we're decreasing the inflammation. It's like putting gas on the fire. Right? Of course, you start hurting anywhere, you go to the doctor, you have arthritis. Everybody has arthritis. But I promise you that if you decrease the inflammation in the body, guess what happens? Those aches and pains, they start going away. And you're like, how can that be?
Yeah.
Right? You're getting older physiologically, right? You're like, I'm 61 now, but you feel like you're 50 at some point. You're like, I'm feeling better than I felt 10 years ago, which is cool.
Yeah.
Right? Because you think that you're just like getting older and you're falling apart, and that should not be. When you're 100, maybe. Not now.
Yeah.
Well, I tell people I feel the same way I did when I was 25.
Here we go.
And I was out of shape then, too.
Or they go, I'm in shape. Round is a shape, you know what I mean?
And I hear that a lot.
I just love it.
But, we have a sugar addiction. It's, and this country is built on sugar, and it's found in everything.
Yeah.
It's an ingredient in practically everything that we eat.
Why is that? I know it's a filler, and I know maybe it's cheaper. I mean, why do they put sugar in everything?
It's addictive. It's addictive.
Well, why do they want you to be addicted? So you buy more product?
They want people to be sick, right? More sick people, it's good for the big pharma. It's good for people to take more drugs. It's good for people to suffer more. Listen, to me, I mean, if you ask me, it's just like it's pure evil. We need to recognize that this is not the road that we want to be taking, right? If you truly want to serve the Lord as long as you can, right? This is something that taking care of your body is really important. And I tell this all the time, like, it's not about being perfect. It's about what's your next step. What's your next step for you, Doug? What's your next step for you? Right? And knowing what the next step is and say, how can I do a little bit better? Because ultimately, right, you and I, we're here for the same reason. To bring the light in other people's lives.
What do you think about, let's say, we talk about sugars, about stuff in packages. What about like vitamin supplements or things like, I mean, I'm taking, actually, his wife got me some stuff called these green barley tablets or something. They're pretty, I noticed the pain one in curcumin, but they're in capsules, they're processed, but I'm saying you get more, and a lot of the pain went away. I still can feel a little bit there. It's it's not perfect, but it's way better than it was. Way better. I mean.
Yeah. So there is some companies out there that have, they have masters a way, right, that you can take vegetables that you can dry them up and just have them dry, and you can take them orally, right? You're going to get some great benefit from that. Not to say that you cannot take something synthetic that might not benefit you in terms of symptoms, But in terms of health, you got to understand, you know, what do I need to do for me to be healthy is to have things at its natural, you know, state, the best that you can, right? I mean, that should be our goal every day. Absolutely.
And blood pressure is another thing. You know.
That was something you said on the last show that, talking about, because I take a pill for blood pressure now. I had a heart surgery when I was in 2001. I had a mitral valve tore.
Yeah.
Okay, and they were able to repair it, but now I've had to take a blood pressure pill. You know, like apparently the rest of your life you got to take one to keep the. You know, I mean, my blood pressure is generally pretty good, but it's with a blood pressure pill. It's a losartan or something like that. And you know, I'm generally 120 over 80 or over 70, and sometimes 110 over 70. But it all depends on what time of the day. When if I have eaten food, it gets up a little bit higher, but in the beginning it's not. So what about those to get your blood pressure down? Is that the same thing? Fruits, nuts, veg. What did you say? Fruits,
vegetables, protein, and fat.
Yeah.
Right, but also, you know, the other thing is, it's always the secret recipes. You got to think well, move well, eat well. Right? When people are not moving enough, this is not good for your body. You were designed to move. You were designed to put real food in your body. And you were also designed to, you know, if you're around people that are not loving you, supporting you, and they're not for you, you shouldn't be around them.
Yeah.
Right? Because causing any kind of stress, whether it's emotional stress, physical stress, or chemical stress, they're all the same stress. They're all the same reaction in the body. Right? Reaction, the first thing that happens when you have stress is you're increasing your sympathetic nervous system, which will increase your blood pressure right away.
So if you're in an environment, let's say a work environment where it's stressful, you better start eating healthier.
That's
Do something
right.
to mitigate the
That's
the day, 'cause
right.
We're going to get things in this life that
That's
are going to
right.
stress you. There's no way
Absolutely.
around it. So
I
yeah.
agree.
Now, if the lion chases you,
Yeah. Well, actually, I've heard a little stress from time to time is actually good for the, you know, it stimulates.
It's called eustress,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it does things for you to help you out.
Yeah.
And makes you stronger, but continued is what.
Human beings were never designed to be under stress 20 hours a day.
Right,
Right.
exactly
And this
right.
is what's happening a lot of time for a lot of people today.
and that's why he retired.
That's why you look so good
Praise the
without
Lord.
stress.
He's
Yeah.
retired from life though. He's pretty busy. I see him at the museum all the time.
Now I get to go down to the museum, bug him.
Bug me.
Hey, here we go.
Yeah. I had a pretty good gig. I get to paint pictures for a living, so, you know.
You can't beat that,
Can't
can
beat
you?
that with a stick. No, I'll take that.
And I get to play with the children, so I
Yeah.
go through the museum. So
I like that. When I grow up, that's what I want to be, just like you guys. I want to be just like you.
Yeah.
So we're enjoying life, and we enjoy doing this TV show because we like to point out how we can believe the Bible and believe every word that comes from the Bible, and it's something that we understand God. If we understand God's word and learn from it, and that becomes part of you. And
It's like the thing in Paul when he says, "Oh, the God of all grace to redeem you spiritually, mentally, and spirit, soul, and body, basically. Captivate us, everything, make it captive to the things of the Lord, spirit, soul, and body." And that, so it's, we don't talk a lot about the body in that sense, but so this was good to really hear some of this stuff. Good for me anyway.
well, thank you for being on our
Yes,
show.
thank
We'll
you.
see you
Welcome.
next time.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Revolution against evolution.